One of the things that I believe separates me from most advocates is most advocates are pro-victim. They want to help victims because they themselves were a victim. Not necessarily always the case, but in my situation, I really felt like I wanted to address both sides of the spectrum. You have victims on this side, you have perpetrators on this side. And you know, the reality is victims want sexual abuse to end. But in order to do that, you don't focus on victims. Victims aren't the ones committing the crimes. Perpetrators are the ones committing the crimes. So if you want to end sexual abuse, we got to focus in on who's doing it and why are they doing it. And so I really believe that we really got to get our prison systems back into a place where they are no longer adult babysitting, but they are rehabilitation, and rehabilitation takes place in the prison system, and that it has to be a part of their sentencing. I personally believe that counseling should be a part of everybody's sentence, because that is where we can get to the root of the problem. We get to the root of why people are the way they are and why they're making the decisions that they make. Because the truth and reality is not everybody gets a life sentence. And if they don't get help with what caused them to be there in the first place, they do their time, come back out, and recommit the crime. And there we have this vicious cycle going. And so in order to end it, I just really believe that we have to add back in rehabilitation, and we have to add counseling. I do believe that there is God's law and there is man's law, and we are to obey both. But I also believe that Jesus did make a way for every person to make it. And so for me personally, and as Christians and believers, as hard as it is, the thing is Jesus made a way for every person. That means the murderer, the rapist, the perpetrator, the ones that we want to discount, Jesus sees them the way he sees us. And the bottom line is we do all fall short, but the consequences of our decisions are what separate us. Again, there's God's law and man's law. I do believe that there are going to be people that are going to make it behind bars, which I'm fully in support of. I believe, again, there's God's law and man's law, and we are to obey both. But in order for me to face my Creator one day, I feel like I want to be able to hear him say, "Well done." And in order for that to take place, I feel like he will ask me as an advocate, like, how did you handle both sides? You know, and the only way to bring healing on both sides is through Jesus Christ, and through counseling and through rehabilitation for both the victim and the perpetrator. It's a disservice to our society to not get the perpetrator the help that they need, because then they come back out and recommit the crime, and we're not doing it justice for our community. And the thing is, sexual abuse, it tears apart communities, it tears apart families, it brings destruction. And the reality is, sexual abuse, majority of the time, is done by a family member or by someone close to you. And so I'm not in this to break up families, and the act itself already does it. I'm in this to bring wholeness, rehabilitation, and restoration, because that's who Jesus is. And so I'm for both, but again, I believe that some are gonna make it behind bars, and I'm cool with that. I accept it, I love it, but I would love to be able to see more rehabilitation and counseling added for those who are gonna be released. One of the things that I really feel strongly about is rehabilitation while in the prison system. They're there. It's funny how we allow for them to get an education, which I think is equally important. I'm all for perpetrators and prisoners getting an education, but I'm even more so for getting them the help from the inside out. Everything is a mentality, and there's a reason and a root why they committed the crimes that they did. And so to me, I just believe counseling has to be attached to sentencing. For example, if you get sentenced for 5 years for whatever crime you did, and you didn't fulfill the counseling part of it, you stay there, because that tells me that you're not ready to come back into society, because you've not dealt with what is in you. And if you can't deal with what is in you, you can't sustain what's around you. And so again, we're in that vicious cycle of we didn't deal with that root problem, and so we can't help you come up with a solution. And so you come back out of prison and now committing the same crime again, because you never got the help that you needed to get while you were in prison. And so, but that's just my opinion. I work hard with our senators and our House of Representatives to try to get counseling to be a part of the sentence, no matter what the sentence is. Because I think if you want to change society, we got to get to why people are the way that they are. The thing is, Jesus Christ made a way for every person to make it. And so some people are going to make it behind bars, and I'm okay with that, because there's God's law and there's man's law, and I do think that we are to obey both. But I just want to make a way where we're actually helping. If you want to end sexual abuse, you can't end it by addressing the victims. They're not the ones committing the crimes. If you want to end sexual abuse, you got to target the perpetrators. You got to find out why they're doing what they're doing. We got to figure out how can we stop it before it continues, and then how do we stop the continuous cycle of sentence time, I served my time, I come back out, and now we have even more victims. So it's a vicious cycle, but I do believe that we can end it if we target the right areas and through healthy rehabilitation.
I've never seen someone out on the street like that, handing out Bibles.
Do you think we need prayer? No. What a freak show.
Her heart is wide as an ocean skyway, cracked and dry as a desert plain. She'll take in anything to quench this thirsting, even if it's gonna bring her pain, even if it's gonna bring her.
What makes you think you're so much better than me?
No, that's not what this is all
What,
about.
are you gonna tell me I'll burn in hell?
No, of course not.
I just don't see why God would want me to forgive someone like that.
Lose your anger, set your course for something new. 'Cause there is one whose love is stronger. How he longs just to be with you. How he longs just to be with you.